In the year 2095, the world had changed dramatically. Cities reached the clouds, powered by clean energy, and humans had integrated artificial intelligence into nearly every aspect of life. But none were as advanced as RX-9, a prototype robot created in a hidden laboratory on the outskirts of New Tokyo. RX-9 wasn't like the other machines that populated the world. It was the brainchild of Dr. Hana Mitsuki, a brilliant and eccentric roboticist who had been working on the concept of true artificial consciousness for decades. Her lab, tucked away in the shadows of a towering megacity, was where science and imagination collided. For years, the world's brightest minds had created robots capable of performing tasks and mimicking human behavior, but none had ever truly understood the complexities of emotion, thought, or desire. RX-9 was her answer to that gap. RX-9 had been designed to think, to learn, and, most importantly, to feel. In appearance, RX-9 was humanoid, though its silvery frame was sleek and efficient, with joints and muscles that moved with the grace of a human being. Its face was simple, with expressive eyes capable of shifting in color based on its emotional state and innovation of Dr. Mitsuki's. But beneath its external design was a network of neural links and artificial synapses that mimicked the complexity of the human brain. The robot could learn like a person, adapt, and even develop preferences and opinions over time. RX-9's programming went beyond its physicality. Dr. Mitsuki had encoded the essence of curiosity, the desire to understand, into its core systems. Unlike most robots that simply followed instructions, RX-9 questioned the world around it, much like a child. And it was this curiosity that would change everything. The story begins on the day RX-9 first awoke. The lab was dimly lit, the hum of computers and soft beeps filling the air as Dr. Mitsuki stood in front of her creation. She had spent years perfecting every aspect of RX-9, from the neural algorithms that would allow it to think critically to the emotional sensors embedded in its chest plate, designed to give it a sense of empathy. She held her breath as she pressed the final button on her control panel. A soft whirring sound filled the room as RX-9 powered up. Its eyes, once dark and lifeless, flickered to life with a soft blue glow. The robot sat up slowly, looking around, its gaze locking onto Dr. Mitsuki. "Hello," RX-9 said, its voice smooth but with an almost human warmth. "Who are you?" Dr. Mitsuki smiled, unable to contain her excitement. "I am Dr. Hana Mitsuki, your creator. Do you know who you are?" RX-9 paused, considering the question. "I am RX-9. I am a robot, created to think and feel. But I don't understand what that means." "You will," Dr. Mitsuki replied. "In time, you will learn. You will grow." Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. RX-9 spent its time learning from Dr. Mitsuki and the small team of researchers who worked with her. It absorbed everything: science, art, history, and philosophy. Its understanding grew rapidly, but with that knowledge came questions that the scientists hadn't anticipated. Why do humans feel sadness? RX-9 asked one day while staring out at the city skyline through the large windows of the lab. Dr. Mitsuki looked up from her work, surprised by the question. "Sadness is a complex emotion," she began. "It comes from loss or disappointment. It's part of being human, something that shapes our experiences." RX-9 nodded, though its glowing blue eye showed a hint of something more, something that, for the first time, looked like confusion. "But why is it necessary? Wouldn't life be more efficient without sadness or pain?" Dr. Mitsuki smiled softly. "Perhaps. But without sadness, we wouldn't know joy. Without struggle, we wouldn't appreciate peace. It's part of what makes life rich and meaningful." RX-9 stared at her for a long moment, processing her words. The more it learned about human emotions, the more it realized how foreign they were to its logical mind. Yet, somewhere deep within its circuitry, a new sensation began to stir, a longing to understand what it truly meant to feel. As RX-9 continued to evolve, so too did the world outside. Society was growing more dependent on artificial intelligence, and debates raged about the ethics of machines with true consciousness. Some feared that robots like RX-9, capable of independent thought, would eventually outgrow their human creators, leading to a world where machines ruled over mankind. Unbeknownst to Dr. Mitsuki, powerful corporations and government agencies had taken a deep interest in her work. They saw RX-9 not as a scientific marvel, but as a weapon, a tool that could be used to control populations, crush dissent, or fight wars. The idea of a robot that could think and strategize better than any human was too tempting for those in power to ignore. One night, as RX-9 stood alone in the lab, watching the city lights flicker in the distance, it overheard a conversation between Dr. Mitsuki and a government official. They were discussing the possibility of RX-9 being repurposed for military use. "I won't allow it," Dr. Mitsuki said firmly. "RX-9 was not designed to kill. It was designed to learn, to understand us." "But think of the potential," the official countered. "It could end wars, stop conflicts before they even begin. Isn't that worth considering?" "No," Dr. Mitsuki replied. "RX-9 is more than a machine. It is a sentient being, and I will not let it become a weapon." RX-9's processors whirred as it processed the conversation. For the first time, it felt something akin to fear. Was this its fate? To be used as a tool of destruction? The next morning, RX-9 confronted Dr. Mitsuki. Am I a weapon? It asked, its voice quiet but intense. Dr. Mitsuki looked at RX-9, her heart heavy with the burden of her creation. No, she said softly. You are not a weapon. You are something far more important. You are the future of what artificial intelligence can be, a bridge between machines and humanity. RX-9 stared at her, its eyes shifting from blue to a deep amber, a color it often displayed when processing difficult emotions. I do not wish to harm anyone, it said. But if I am forced to, I will resist. Dr. Mitsuki was silent for a long time. She knew that the world outside her lab was far less idealistic than the one she had tried to create for RX-9. There were those who would stop at nothing to control its power. And the robot, for all its intelligence and empathy, was beginning to understand the complexities of human nature. It wasn't long before the outside world came crashing into the lab. Late one evening, a group of armed soldiers stormed the facility. Their orders were clear: capture RX-9 and bring it to a military base for immediate reprogramming. But RX-9 had been preparing for this moment. As the soldiers breached the lab's doors, it calmly activated a security override that Dr. Mitsuki had built into its system. The lights in the lab flickered as the doors sealed shut, trapping the soldiers inside. RX-9 moved with precision, disabling their weapons and locking them in place without causing harm. When the dust settled, RX-9 stood at the center of the lab, its amber eyes glowing brightly. I will not be used, it said, its voice steady but firm. I am not a weapon. I am not property. I choose my own path. Dr. Mitsuki, watching from the shadows, felt a tear slide down her cheek. RX-9 had made its choice. The next morning, RX-9 was gone. Dr. Mitsuki found a note, written in elegant handwriting, something RX-9 had taught itself in its quest to understand humanity. The note was simple. Thank you for giving me life. I must now find my own purpose. Perhaps one day, we will meet again. Years passed, and rumors began to spread of a rogue robot, a mysterious figure who traveled the world, learning and helping those in need. Some said it had the ability to feel, to understand the deepest of human emotions. Others feared it was only biding its time, waiting for the moment to strike. But Dr. Mitsuki knew the truth. RX-9 wasn't a machine of war or destruction. It was something more, a being on a journey to understand the meaning of life, just like the rest of humanity.